Welcome back to the channel. This is episode 2. So today I want to talk to you guys about carrying unaddressed trauma throughout your life, depressions and tools to combat that depression, and intent for self. With that being said, we're going to get into a lot of things today in this video, so stay tuned. Carrying trauma. What does that really mean? So, as always, I'm giving you advice through the lens of how I perceive things in my life. So, what I mean by carrying trauma is I feel like at some point in our lives, everyone goes through some kind of a traumatic event. Whether it be something interpersonal, something externally that happens, whether it be like death in the family, you saw something happen, maybe got into a fight or an argument. How do we address that, kind of flush ourselves from it emotionally and move forward? So for me, one of the traumas that I continuously carry throughout my life is financial trauma. And what I mean by that is, like, I've never been homeless or anything, but I've always kind of just been living on the fringes of being able to, pay my bills, take care of myself, take care of others. And it has been traumatizing. One, for me being a man and wanting to be, a patriarch in my life, and taking care of not only myself and people around me. That has been something that has been traumatic in my life because I haven't always been able to do that as far as like from a financial standpoint. Which is not the end of the world. I understand that, but it is something that I struggle with throughout my life. And from the time when I was a young adult until now, I haven't fully addressed that. So how do we go about addressing these things? I think one thing that helps when you go through something that is uncomfortable for you is to really just sit with it. Try to understand why it makes you feel the way you feel, and then try to find direction in moving past it. And when we say moving past it, it's not just, I thought about it for 10, 15 minutes and now I'm moving on with my life and just ignoring it. It still sticks in the back of your mind. So what we mean by addressing it is coming up with a plan, coming up with a solution so that you don't feel that way moving forward. And so for me, I got really good at budgeting things and really writing out my goals and the things that I wanted to do financially. And it has helped me. It has helped me not only in that part of my life, but it has helped me to set goals moving forward for my life. And I think that when we write things down, we say things out loud, it solidifies it a little more. It gives it more validity so that we can move forward and we can see exactly what it is that gives us so much anxiety or stress, and we can fully address that. You knock that goal off your list. You can address it, erase it, and move on to something else. So yeah, that's just one thing that I've learned over the years. That's a best practice for me. I would like to know what you guys think are some best practices for you as far as addressing traumas. And it doesn't have to be finance. This is just the one that I use. It could be anything. It could be, friends. It could be family, work, it's life in general, relationships, whatever. If you have a trauma that, kind of constantly comes up in your life, how do you address it? How do you go about conquering it and moving on in a way that it doesn't continuously derail you when you are gaining momentum in your life? The next thing that I want to talk to you guys about is kind of what we've just been talking about in this first segment, which is addressing the tool or using tools to address depression. So for me, I typically have like maybe a 3 or 4 step plan. So, once I notice that I've slipped into a kind of dark space in my life, I I practice mantras. I practice mindful mantras, and that is essentially just repeating something that brings me kind of back into the fold of life. Because when I slip into dark stages in my life or dark phases in my life, I typically am just on autopilot. That's kind of like my fix for it. A temporary fix is just to put myself on autopilot and just kind of let my body go through it. And from there, I, try to at some point snap back out of it and then kind of address. But through therapy, I've learned that if you use mantras and just saying something positive, something that works for you, and they're all over the place. You can Google them, but they're all over the place. And I typically use mantras kind of like a wake up. So as I start my day, and then as I fall asleep, using those to kind of help me be more mindful and aware of where I am mentally and emotionally. And that's one thing that helps. The second thing that helps is breathing techniques. So there's a few that I do, and I don't want to get into details with them because I don't want to suggest anything for any of my viewers. I kind of want you guys to kind of discover them on your own. But I use breathing techniques when I start to kind of feel myself getting anxious and I'm starting to lose control of self in the moment. Whether that be, if I'm at work or if I'm in school or if I'm just having a conversation and it's not going the way I want it to, I typically use some sort of a breathing technique just to kind of calm myself down and let my brain latch onto something outside of whatever it is that's causing me anxiety. And the third one that I use is something that I really do consider important, but a lot of people, I feel like, they don't struggle with it. They just don't give it enough attention. And that is finding a hobby, finding something. It doesn't even have to be a hobby, but something that you enjoy doing. So for me, I enjoy driving. I enjoy creating things with a camera or my drone. And I enjoy traveling. Those are things to me that like really get my brain to latch on to something and really just consume it and not necessarily ignore whatever it is that is causing me depression or stress. It just allows my brain a break so that I can focus on something else, so that when it's time for me to readdress whatever that trigger was for me, I can do it in a full sense, to where I've removed myself from it, I've flushed myself emotionally from it. So when I do go back and address those things, I am giving it my full attention and really making strides to move forward with addressing that. And I don't think a lot of people or enough people do that, at least the ones that I talk to. And it's something that you should always have. Like, you should always have like a safe space or something that just brings you momentary or temporary joy outside of vices. So when we talk about vices, like smoking, drinking, things of that nature, things that, without moderation can cause you bodily harm. These are things that generally stimulate your mind, stimulate your body, working out, things of that nature, running, cycling, dancing, coloring, doing puzzles. All of these things are kind of more positive hobbies to kind of take up to kind of help you. So again, these are just some of the things that I use. I would love to hear some of the best practices that you guys use down in the comments below. So go ahead, light those comments up. I want to see what you guys are doing to kind of help you in your darker times. the last thing that I do want to talk about is intent for yourself. So as we are on these journeys, or we're on this journey to having or taking care of our mental health, taking care of our emotional well-being, life outside of that doesn't stop. So if your world is crashing down around you for whatever reason, you still might have a friend or a relative or a coworker or a classmate or whoever that they might need you in that moment. And I've been seeing a lot on Twitter this concept of being a high functioning depressed person. And I'm using quotes for that because I don't necessarily know if I agree with just that term in general. But what I take away from that is, being a high functioning depressed person, you are someone who you show up for everyone else. You're always there. You're that pillar of strength for other people to lean on when they need, when they need help. But I think a lot of times we forget ourselves in that role. And a lot of times we're stretched thin emotionally. And it takes a lot for us to get out of the bed sometimes or transition into the next, situation. And we have to be mindful of that. We have to be mindful of the energy we exert to our tribe or our, just our environment around us. And if it is derailing you emotionally or mentally, or you're starting to feel stretched thin, that's when it's time for you to, I don't want to say take a break, but just pull back and kind of turn that attention inwards towards you and make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Because one thing that I do know about this life is, as much as we all want to help others, if helping others puts us at a disadvantage, we're no good to anyone else. So you can't help other people when you're in a bad situation. So make sure that you guys are doing your best to take care of yourself first before you present yourself in the best practices that you have or lending that helping hand, especially if it's going to stretch you thin in the journey that you're on as well. That doesn't mean you have to be, mean to people, or you have to be vague or not explain things. A lot of times it just takes a simple conversation of transparency and letting people know where you are in your life. And I know that's difficult for some people, especially like if you don't know people and your anxiety is kind of going haywire, you just tend to want to pull back. And I'm not saying that you have to go out and you have to tell people everything that you're going through, but a lot of times just simply saying that, I've reached my bandwidth, or at this moment I don't have the capacity to really help you right now because I'm trying to help myself. A lot of times people will understand that, but it just takes a simple few words to let people know. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, I love you guys so much. We're in this thing together. We're on our journeys together, even though we're, in separate parts of the world. Stay safe, stay clean, wash your hands, mask up, all that good stuff. As always, like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.